Hey guys, if you like this content, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys liked the video and subscribed to my channel. It helps make these videos worth it going forward.
What's up, guys? Altcoin Sherpa here with a educational video on a step-by-step for how these altcoins reverse. I know I've done a video before on altcoin reversals, but today I wanted to just talk about some of the step-by-step process and what to really look for, because that's where we're at in the market. And yeah, let's just get to it. I'm not going to do a really big video on distribution. Distribution on higher time frame charts, they look obvious in hindsight, but they're hard to spot when they're actually occurring for several reasons. Number one, you're actually euphoric, usually because it's all-time high levels. Um, but generally speaking, distribution at the top is characterized with high sell volume, lots of volatility, ugly daily candle closes, and a pattern that looks like this, where you have a parabolic blow-off top, lots of volatility at the top, and then it goes down, something like that. Generally speaking, distribution happens much quicker than the accumulation bottom. So tops happen quicker than bottoms. Anyways, we won't really talk about that quite much today. But anyways, let's talk about what happens and what we're looking for in a altcoin reversal. So this is a chart of AVAX USD on the 6-hour. What you're first looking for is a market nuke, and altcoins obviously are higher beta than Bitcoin and will move very, very hard relative to Bitcoin. So, like, if Bitcoin's going to experience like a 30% move, altcoins will often experience like double that. And not always, of course, but so this is an example of AVAX. This basically went from 38 to 17 in the span of like just 2 days. And then it obviously had another leg down to negative almost 70%. And that's not even from the highs. This is just like from the nukage. So what you're looking for is a big candle nuke. And this candle nukage can happen over like a few candles, a few days, but generally speaking, this is like the worst of it usually. And this is the May dump back in 2021. Of course, we all remember it. Altcoins really nuked very hard. And as I say this, every single bear trend has a different type of pattern and a different way in which they got there. What we're seeing lately is we're seeing more like a slow grind down for many altcoins. We're not really seeing like this massive market nukage. So it's really going to depend on the context, and it's going to depend on the chart. With that said, this is a pretty common overall bottom for many altcoins. So here's AVAX, as I said. Number one, you look for the first big market nukage, so anywhere from 30 to 60% or even more over a few days. These altcoins will just get wrecked. And what happens after that period is you see lots of volatility. You'll see lots of choppy price action. You'll see lots of sell volume, lots of buy volume, just lots of volume usually at this first stage after the candle. So you'll see, like big market nuke, and then you'll see lots and lots of ping-ponging around for a short time period. And this is usually pretty standard. It might make another leg down. It might just stabilize. Generally, it'll make some sort of lower high on the very low time frames. That's what we saw right here in May 20th. But ultimately, these are lower highs that will come. This is very, very common. So if you are around during this market nuke, there's actually good opportunity to like buy the wicks. You are knife catching quite a bit, but then usually you'll get some sort of slight mean reversion to make a lower high, and then usually it will revisit the lows or it will break past the lows. In this case, it broke past the lows. So the second stage is heavy volatility, lots and lots of buy-sell volume, as you can see. Sometimes it makes another leg down. Sometimes it just gets close to the wick. But regardless, you'll see lots of volatility in this next stage. This is over like the next usually few days after the dump. And it's contextual too, depending on how strong the dump is. If the dump itself is very strong, then this initial volatility period will be very high as well. Okay, so after that period, you'll see a bearish market structure on lower time frames. So this is the 6-hour. As you can see, this has lower highs and lower lows all the way across the board. Like it's just lower, 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 lower. Right? Just lower highs, lower lows. Just it looks bad. Step 4 is when you start to see volatility and volume really dry up. And you can see this on higher time frame charts. You can really see that volume just comes down, right? During this overall rounded bottom pattern, the volume just dies, which is what you want to see. And sorry for the messy chart. And the step number 4 is volume and volatility both die down. And sometimes you get like one last retest. So you'll see some sort of like double bottom here. And this is a double bottom on lower time frame charts. And then at the end of the day, you get a rounded bottom. This is the rounded bottom. This overall was the reversal pattern. Sometimes you'll get a rounded bottom. Sometimes you'll get a double bottom on higher time frame charts, where price will come down like this, come back up, and then come back down again. That is a very common pattern. There's many common patterns for bottom, though. I mean, like you should just study some patterns and you'll see it. So this was a rounded bottom reversal, and the real big confirmation was where we saw this key level, this $25 area. This was, the strong resistance area. When you see volume confirm right here, the move, this is when you really, really want to pay attention. As you can see on August 17th, price had an insane amount of volume, even more volume than the overall dump. And to me, this is like really when you start to pay attention. You can actually miss the first big move too. Like I don't know, when you say it goes from like 17 to 25 in the first like just few days, up 50%. You can still buy this move. That's the thing that people need to really understand is that I know a lot of people that they were born in the bear market like 2018, so they're afraid to buy anything that's pumping. But that's really the wrong move. The last several months, you really want to buy the stuff that's pumping because it has the most energy, the most buyers, the most support, the most volume. The most liquidity, the most attention from everybody. It's key to buy these types of moves. And so anyways, this is the final step is obviously AVAX move very hard. Now, it's important to understand that it depends on the altcoin that you choose. Not all altcoins really resumed its old May highs. If you look back to see coins like ChainLink, ChainLink never got close to its highs. So let's briefly look at ChainLink. You'll notice ChainLink never got close to its highs. So, its highs back in May, all the way up to $52. And although it had the same structure as the other one, AVAX, where you saw lots of volatility after the dump, and then you see a slow grind down, bearish market structure on lower time frame charts, and then this kind of had a rounded bottom reversal, not quite so much as AVAX, and it hit a lower high at 36. It's important to note though that there's still a very profitable trade to be had from 13 to 36, right? You almost triple your money from the lows to the highs. So that's one thing I want to also stress is that even though these coins might not necessarily hit all-time high levels, of course it's really good to trade coins that have that potential, but there are many opportunities for you to take even if you don't necessarily get all-time high levels. For instance, as I said, you still get a 3x here, a nearly 3x. But it is important to also see the comparisons between these types of charts. So let's also look at a few other type of bottom structures that might be Let me take a look. Let's look at, I should have prepared a little bit better. I'm sorry. Let's look at some older coins. Okay, sure. SXP. Even though this happened in the DeFi summer of 2020, it still has a lot of the same characteristics as we saw in May, right? So we see big blow off top, and this is during DeFi summer. This was a very fun time. Big blow off top, big candle nukage, right? So it goes like negative 40% or something like that, negative 50%. Negative 50% from the highs in just a short amount of time period. Bearish retest, and then we get one big market nuke again. 70%. And this is also a little bit off topic, but this is also why you see some people saying, oh, like, your coin can go like negative 50% and negative 50%, negative 50%. Like it can just keep going lower and lower and lower, like in these situations. So as I said before, you generally see one big market nuke, lots of volatility, and then potentially another market leg down, followed by a little bit more volatility. And then that's when you start to see the bearish market structure where price slowly grinds down. And then you see low volatility, low volume after that. And for this one, it was a rounded bottom reversal. So it took a long time, but obviously got this big first initial candle nukage, as I said, negative 40% or so. And then it made like a lower high, grinded away, and then it made another leg down. Lots of volatility, lots of volume, as you can see right here. And then a bearish market structure, grinding all the way down. And you can start to make some different areas of support and resistance that are important to the chart. For instance, usually it's like these types of areas at the break that are important. And when you start to see volume really pick up, something like this is when it's time to really pay attention. So this is January 2021. And when you see this big volume candle getting close to resistance, that's when you know that it's almost time to go. So as I said, this is a rounded bottom reversal, and then obviously, what's next is price went really strongly, and then obviously died. Since that time, it's never really quite recovered. But again, you can still see the same characteristics as you saw before. Big blow off top, big candle nukage, like negative 30%, consolidation, and then it makes another leg down, negative 70% from that area, and then high volatility, and then a reset, bearish market structure, and then lower high. So it goes from 140 to 450 or whatever, 470. It's important to also understand that the longer that price takes in an accumulation area, the stronger it is. So that's something that really take into account, is that the longer that it generally takes consolidating, the stronger the next move will be. So for instance, because this one accumulated for much longer than this May time period, that's why this move, the proceeding move was much stronger. Let's look again. Let's look at some older coins. As I said, I should have been more prepared. I'm sorry. But you'll notice that all of these types of patterns have, like, as I said, they have very similar. They have very similar reversal patterns. And it's also important to understand too that the context is different now than it was back in like 2019. Like 2019 was a really bad time for altcoins. because it was just like a massively bearish market structure for like 2018 and 2019. Like, that's when you saw Bitcoin dominance like at all-time high levels, basically. And altcoins were just really hard to trade back then. I know I sound like a crypto boomer like when I say that, but it was just very difficult. So like the patterns that you see for reversals are not quite as beneficial in these examples for older coins because it was just such a bearish market structure. So like double bottoms, like you can see this is kind of like a double bottom, but even still, like it's still just like another lower high that was formed, you know, and then price nuked lower. Obviously, we all know what happened there in March 2020. So to summarize and to overall like finish up. Oh, I also want to look at DOT really quick, actually, and also Solana. Let's look at Solana first. So Solana had a different type of price action. Um, it doesn't necessarily always have to look like what I showed you with AVAX or other coins, but if the coin is really strong, what we see here for something like Solana was we saw this initial market nuke, obviously, from 60 to 20. So significant, downtrend there. Lots of volatility initially. You can see this high sell volume right after the candles. And this one made some higher lows and lower highs. This one didn't quite have the rounded bottom structure that we saw with AVAX. This one instead had some sort of like just consolidation where you have like lower highs and higher lows. And I was really concerned about this one actually because I thought that this support level around 20 was getting like beaten up every time, but in reality, this was just like, this was the bottom. So, we sought to see Solana do really well. But the first two steps are the same, where you see big market nukage, and then you see high volatility, followed by, for this example, you saw lower highs and then higher lows. So generally, you'll see like patterns like this, where it's like this. To a degree, I mean, obviously this wasn't so pronounced, but you'll get some consolidation where price, and you still see like volume drying up as well. But yeah, you'll get some similar type of patterns like this for very bullish coins. Let's also look at DOT too. I always like to cite DOT because DOT is a coin that really looks like bullish accumulation. But it has many of the same principles as I said before. Like, as I said, it always starts with a high, big market nukage. You always see like the negative 60% candle. And you always see high volatility right after there. But after that, you start to see just like, you still see this kind of overall consolidation period where you don't really see any, you don't see really new highs, or if they are, they're deviations like this. And you generally see kind of equal lows or so. You don't really see lower lows. But it's important to understand that this context here, you'll look to see that volume has mostly died off. You'll see the candles are very thin and there's not much volatility. And you'll just look for the ranging price action. And as I said, the longer that this chops around and accumulates, the harder that it usually moves. So as I said, after the consolidation period of nearly 3 or 4 months, that's when this thing exploded from basically like $3 all the way up to $50 at the highs. But as I said, every single bottom is different. Like that bottom that it had at the end of the summer of 2020 is different than the one in May of 2021. Again, this is the similar one to AVAX that we saw before. So what am I looking at in terms of this current market structure? This market structure obviously is different than what we saw in May, right? Because May was just like a total big shakeout where we just see like negative 70% within like a week, and then we're just done. This is a much more consistent grinding down where we're seeing like we're seeing stuff like this where it's like just lower highs and lower lows. It's just like this. Whereas back in May, it was just straight up boom, you're done, and then like high volatility. So what I'm really looking for at this point is I'm looking for one last shakeout. I've been pretty you know pretty open about that. Is I think there's going to be one last shakeout. I don't know where it's going to be. But I think maybe one last shakeout and then accumulation can occur. So, maybe this goes down to like $10 again. I don't know. That's where it was at the July lows. I never could have imagined this being this low, but here we are, And yeah, this is like kind of what I'm expecting overall for this type of market structure. Is one last shakeout followed by high volatility, and then we see some sort of rounded bottom, or like something like we see at DOT back in 2020, is we're just like accumulate for a while. Either way, I will say that I think it's unlikely that this has like a V-shaped reversal. I don't think that that's really going to happen. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you guys have any other questions with regards to these types of charts. Step 1, to go over it again, is big massive nuke. Step 2 would be high volatility after that. Step 3 would be like bearish market structure on lower time frame charts. Step 4 would be like lower volume, lower volatility, and step 5 would just be like confirmation of the break with volume. And that's what we saw back in May and June and July. And for this market structure, as I said, it's going to look somewhat similar when we see maybe one last shakeout, but let's just see.